Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first ever Retro Chat. This is being recorded live on twitch.tv/RetroMMO, of course. I am Evan, and today I am joined here by Dazz to talk about the Spriters Resource. I felt that Spriters Resource would be a good relevant topic to my community because my community is full of game devs and is therefore full of pixel artists and therefore full of people that have at one point in their lives Googled for pixel art references.
And thus found that one website that seems to have all of it.
Yeah, they got the SEO, don't they? That's Spriters Resource. So my
That was
guest
completely
Daz.
unintentional for the record. That was it just I took it over from someone else, so it was just I just had that name.
Excellent. My guest Daz is most well known for, of course, being the person that maintains and runs Spriters Resource and has done so for a very long time. And he also works with Did You Know Gaming. He's been doing, I believe, writing and then recording voiceovers as well for them for a long time. Um,
God, you know, when you say long time, the worst bit is that I don't even know how long I've done either of those things,
a long
and I'm
time
the
though.
one, and I'm the one that's doing it as well.
Well, I'll go ahead and let you give us a short introduction. Who are you, Daz? What are you into? What are your interests?
Well, my name is Daz. I'm a humble, rural English chap who has a love of pixel art. I grew up playing retro video games, although at the time they were not called retro video games. They were just called video games. But I like to hang out and play video games. I like a lot of movies. I'm just generally interested in all sorts of technology stuff, and I just like to kind of poke and prod at people and see how they get on with things on the internet because I find them all fascinating. And same in the games world. I love talking to developers and YouTube people, Twitch people. There's so many people out there, all involved in this one thing, this little niche. And I float around a lot. I float around a lot. We'll go with that.
Excellent. So tell us, what is the Spriters Resource? What is your affiliation with the Sprit? I'm gonna stop saying the Spriters Resource. What is your affiliation with Spriters Resource?
So yeah, I basically so pixel art was with the Spriters Resource and everything. It was there was not really a place to collect ripped sprites back in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s. So the Spriters Resource came about after an evolution of a bunch of different sprite archives, I suppose, and they all kind of teetered off. And the Spriters Resource luckily just somehow maintained all of that audience and grew to be the biggest one, and it kept on going. The Spriters Resource, for the record, I should probably explain what it is. It's just like a website that archives sprite sheets from video games, so that people can use it for referencing to learn how to make their own or create fan games or you know, all sorts of stuff. Graffiti artists use it a lot. I couldn't tell you all of the people who use it. There's too many.
Yeah, so essentially, it's a site for posting like rips of graphics from 2D games.
Mm.
People
And
either like
custom work as well. So like we had a
right, right.
forum, and it was like a good way of teaching people how to get into it. You know.
So anyway, yeah, Spriters Resource is a site that people post rips of game graphics and, as Daz mentioned, also original art, which I'm also going to ask you about that a bit later. But yeah, it's like an archive. It's like a database for that, and it's become the largest one. And
Mm.
it's really interesting to me. It's become really the only one that people seem to really be
Yeah,
able
I
to
mean,
mention offhand. It's like you have
I
this.
gotta say that there are like two or three which people kind of recognize. The
Yeah.
Sprite Resource is probably the biggest one. There's also Sprite Database, which is it's kind of more. So it's basically another guy who runs it, and he loves to do rips. So it's got a lot of his rips on there, but it's more sort of anime kind of interests. And there's also Sprite Sync for like Mega Man stuff, and they go hardcore on the Mega Man stuff. There's no way I'm going to touch Mega Man as much as they're ever going to touch Mega Man. So,
I
but
see.
Sprite Resource is definitely like number one. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, part of my research for this interview was just going through and asking all of my pixel art friends, White Vault included, if they've ever used the site and what did they use it for. I probably follow maybe 20 or 30 so pixel art streamers on Twitch. I just went through and asked. And I'd say
Mm.
like a solid 75, 80% had at least been on the site before, had at least been to it once. I got a lot of feedback that it was mostly like when they were a beginner and they were
Mm-hmm.
just like trying to figure stuff out. More people that are like more experienced maybe just look at like actual photographs
Yeah,
for
for sure.
reference
I
and
think
stuff.
that's the thing that I always looked at it for was like, I enjoyed reverse engineering in reality. That's what I found really fascinating and exploring existing games. I knew I was never going to make my own. So I like the idea of seeing how the people that would make their own would make them. And that's really helpful for people who don't know how to start. A lot of like free resources online. Um, they kind of they limit the scope of what you can actually believe to create a game. So it's easy to know all of the graphics in, say, I don't know, Super Mario World, right? You know that they made Super Mario World, so you know that they can all be used to make fundamentally a good game. Whereas if you use a resource pack, y- you're not quite, as a beginner, you're not quite sure how to approach it.
That makes sense. So what I'm really curious about is just like that is a ridiculous amount of that is a like 80%, 75% of people that I know that pixel art. That's a ridiculous amount of market share. Like how does that surprise you that you achieved that? How do
Yeah,
you think that like how did you
I'm,
create a tool that just has that amount of power
I literally,
in the industry?
I cannot tell you, man. I sometimes like, when you kind of envision and picture a person, so like who runs the Spriters Resource, right? You wouldn't necessarily believe that like I was a I was from a working class family. I lived in a cupboard under the stairs in my family house, just sitting on a garden chair, ripping sprites from SNES games. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ever expect the thing to be successful. I just was fucking around on the internet because the internet was new and no one knew what they were doing. And now it's huge, and the whole indie scene now exists when it didn't before. So there's tons of people that grew up in that same space that I was in, but I was just on like that side of it. I was still a kid. When I started doing this, I was like 12, 13. So I really didn't expect anything.
Wow, 12, 13. So, but were you there for the site's inception or just soon after or
So
how's
the
that?
site began, a guy called Mark Brown, who he has a YouTube channel called, oh fuck, what's it called? It's like game Game Dev Secrets, is it? I really hate myself for not remembering this. But he's a great YouTuber as well. But he made a website for Nintendo sprites, basically. And then it kind of grew, and I think that he was kind of moving on into journalism instead. So
Mhm.
he handed it over to a guy called Shane, who is also the founder of Did You Know Gaming.
Right, yeah.
And then Shane handed it on to me like 3 months after doing nothing. And then I just kept going. It's always been a passion project for me. And before I ran other sprite archives. But
Oh,
it was
wow.
like I was actually doing sprite archive stuff before the site began, technically, but I took it over because it kind of had that audience together already, and it was clearly something that I really fucking wanted to do all the time, you know?
That's really cool, man. I respect the passion. Where does the passion come from? Like what is motivating about it? What is motivating it about like ripping sheets and archiving them?
I really can't tell you, man. Like, it just there's something about the accomplishment of reverse engineering is one thing, but the fact that people use it and they learn from it, I think that was really the thing that ran it. We had a forum and a community of people, and a lot of people talk about the old forum days when the internet was not sort of Discordy. And like we were a family of people that loved doing this thing together, and we were all learning about pixel art in an environment where that was just not an easy thing to do. And we were all there, and it was just like we kept spurring each other on to do it because people clearly wanted to look at it. The evidence was there in the numbers, and we just kept going. I don't know how to tell you, like in terms of the inspiration and drive to do it, because I just loved doing it, so I kept
Yeah.
doing it. Luckily enough, I could keep on doing it, you know?
So you're right. So the original motivation really had nothing to do with using the site as like a reference for artists. It was more of just like this random, just like desire and satisfaction from archiving the game's art. Is that
Yeah,
correct? Is that what you're
exactly.
saying?
Like, I would say that it wasn't necessarily to inspire artists and get them to learn, but rather like it was the fact that these were archivable bits of artwork that would, in most cases, probably get lost. I always knew that the idea of retro games would become old and they would disappear. And so, whenever there was the opportunity to rip something, I thought, I don't want that to get lost because that's someone spent a long time making all of those animations, and some of them are quite unique. And I think that that's worth being able to explore. And I think that, in all honesty, animation studios should do it more often, where they actually show you how they fucking animate a scene.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. There might be a lot of games with interesting animation sheets, but it's an animation for something that's obscure in the video game or something that like you wouldn't
For
choose to
sure.
use, but it's you want that
Well, that's
art
the
to
thing
be
that I
viewed.
find
Yeah.
amazing is that there's like I can't remember the series name, but it's like the River City Ransom series, right? That style of artwork. When I was younger, that was not a particularly well recognized, highly respected brand, and over the years, it has become that. And all of their animations are really well done, considering how incredibly fucking simple they are. And so
Mm-hmm.
being able to see the variety of it is one thing as well, because it was before we could see just how much variety there was without having to run through the game, you know.
Yeah. Do you feel that there's a lot of games that would not have gotten the recognition they deserved in like the art department if it weren't for sites like Spriters Resource? Or I don't
Some, I would say some. I wouldn't, I'm not going to give myself all that much of a
it
rub
was
on the
all
back,
Dazz,
but like,
guys.
yeah, exactly. But the Mega Man Zero series became like a big thing for people to edit sprites. Mega Man, fuck me, the Sonic community. I mean, Jesus Christ, the Sonic community. Sprites and
Yeah.
Sonic and webcomics going together. You know, I think that the Sonic Advance games would not have had as much appreciation for the artwork that they have if it wasn't for the fact that people were editing them into their own characters.
Yeah.
And now they're considered to be, for a handheld, some of the best.
Interesting. That's really cool. So you mentioned earlier that over the years, Spriters Resource has become more recognized as like the most popular one or the main one. Or I guess there's been more of these sites have fallen over the years. Is
Mm.
that due to just them seeing that they're being outdone, or other sites have more graphics than them, or were there any sort of mergers? Like, did you ever acquire any of these
Yeah,
sites?
so
That sort of thing.
there's been over the years there's been a bunch of these websites. There's like my friend basically ran like a Metal Slug sprite archive, and he decided that he just couldn't keep doing it, so he decided to merge with us, and we just absorbed all of his sprite sheets because he wanted to close it. Wasn't doing anything for him,
Hmm.
so it just made the most sense. There was also another one, uh, which I'm trying to remember the name of now. It's like the Shy Guy Kingdom, and they basically the administrator of it passed away, and the person he handed it on to couldn't maintain the archive. It was there's no way to compete. So they decided to merge that with us as well, so that we could just kind of continue to have a large archive of everything and it not just disappear because people don't have the I don't want to say tenacity because that's not fair on them, but like they're not in a position in life where they can keep doing it, you know?
They
And
just
that's
can't
just
keep
kind
up
of
with Daz, the master of
yeah, man,
pixel
I'm
art.
just I'm just too fast. Get on my level. No, it's more like, you know, I I just got kind of lucky that it was something that I really did have a huge passion for and I just wanted to keep doing. Um, and I also got myself into the position where I'm able to do Digino gaming on the side as well while also running it, you know? Like these
Right.
people had to do
Yeah.
full-time jobs and that's I don't know where they would find the time. And that's from me because I never know where
Yeah.
I'm finding time to do anything.
Oh no, yeah, I can say firsthand. Like working a full time job and then trying to put a bunch of time into a side gig on top of that, It's rough, man. It's really rough. It's really
Yeah.
nice when you're able to have something that like is kind of your main focus, but doesn't take as much time as like a traditional 9 to 5 does. And then that's kind of the situation I have right now. And it sounds like maybe that's what you have as well with like Did You Know Gaming and your own stuff.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough that with Digino Gaming, I'm on my own time. So as long as I get the
Yeah.
work done, I'm all good, you know. And if I want to take a break, I can take a break. I might get hurt for it, but I can do it, and I have that choice. Whereas a lot of people, they work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, not got a choice. They've got a kid, they got to deal with the kid, they've got family problems, you got all sorts of problems going on,
Yeah.
health issues, you know, there's all sorts of shit. And I just don't know where people find the time for essentially hobbies that they can go deep on, besides watching movies, reading books, or playing video games. Anything beyond
Yeah.
that is like that's gotta take some fucking effort, you know. So I always have respect for people to do anything on the side.
Yeah. So feel free to share as little or as much as you want about this. No pressure. But would
Yeah,
you would
sure.
you want to talk about the profitability of Spriters Resource and how it's funded and its income and maybe how that's changed a bit over the years, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's just ads. We just run ads
Okay.
and they pay for the server, and you know, mostly it just kind of sits there and continues to make sure that it doesn't ever go offline. That's the main thing. Um,
Yeah.
After that, it's just YouTube, and you know, I do odds and sods. I do little jobs for people. Sometimes now, who knew? But you can profitably work ripping sprite sheets for companies because they need
Mm.
them, um, and they don't have an archive of their own sprite sheets from their own games, and they don't know how to reverse engineer them. So we've been paid a few times to rip sprites from like retro first person games like Doom. Not Doom specifically, but you know, those sort of Doom style games where they want to do an HD version, which I find that so bizarre because you'd think just keep hold of your own shit. You own it.
Yeah,
What
that
did
blows
you
my
do?
mind. That blows
But
my
then,
mind.
you know, having done Did You Know Gaming and knowing about all these other companies, Square Enix had to remake Kingdom Hearts because they just lost the source code. You know, I mean,
Uh-huh.
we're talking about Square Enix here. We're not
Yeah.
talking about some random third-party publisher on a DOS game from the 80s
Yeah.
where they made 3 games and then disbanded.
Interesting. So you're saying they contracted Spriters Resource to do some of this work for
Well,
them,
they contracted
or
me
you?
directly, but
Yeah.
technically, you know, through the site. But yeah,
Oh wow, that is so cool. That is so cool.
and you know, there's all sorts. There's now like different books that come out that are all about retro pixel art and stuff, and they reference our website, but sometimes they need stuff ripping directly, so they contract people to rip sprites. And the fact that reverse engineering and ripping sprites has become a potential job, I just find unbelievable. I did it for free. I mean, I'm a fucking
Yeah.
idiot, right?
Well, I mean, you're building your website. You're building your brand. That's crazy, man. So that's cool. And you said that the website makes ads money, and that's enough to pay the server costs and maybe like a little
Yeah,
bit of extra
exactly.
cash for
It turns
you. So
out
you
with
don't have
that many
employees
people.
for Spriters
No,
Resource,
no,
then?
no, no. It's all volunteer work.
All
It's all
right.
volunteer.
Okay.
We've got like a staff of, you know, I can't remember, give an exact number, but like 9 or 11 people, you know, kind of around the 10 mark. And really, it kind of, I at least had the ability to use it to help perpetuate myself into people's minds, you know, so I
Yeah.
could be Did You Know Gaming, and I could kind of help me in that way while not directly profiting. It kind of helps steer the course, let's say.
Right. Right. So you're saying you have 10 or so staff for Spriters Resource?
Yeah, just people to approve sheets, um, make sure everyone's
Mm.
behaving, and you know, as you would with a Discord server, that kind of
Right.
thing.
Right. Because every upload has to be manually approved. Right.
Yeah, because you know, turns out if you open up a
Yeah.
site like this for images to be uploaded, you're gonna get a lot of shit,
Yeah. Of
and
course.
people don't know what they're doing, and that's fair enough. Everyone's got to learn, but we don't want people to have to look at poor quality sheets that don't make any sense and don't do what they're meant to do.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of shit submitted?
We do. It turns out that, you know, I'm now in my 30s, so it's very different, and I don't know, I don't really remember what it is to be super, super young, but kids are into some weird ass shit now, and they don't really know what they're doing, and I don't know how to correct what they're trying to tell me sometimes. Like Baldi's Basics is a thing. I don't know what that is, but it's a thing, and people try and rip sprites from it. But because the graphics are all janky as fuck, they don't know what they're doing. I don't know what it is. So it's all just a confusing fucking mess. So we gotta just try and work it out, and it's sometimes a hassle. But I like to make sure that I give them the time to learn if I can.
Gotcha. So do you get like trolls as well, or mainly just like people not knowing what they're doing?
Not so much anymore. Not by the the traditional term of a troll, I suppose. You get people who are assholes, but
Yeah,
they just always exist.
right. But people trying to fuck with you, pretty much. No.
Yeah, yeah. Every now and then, they'll do it as a joke. Like someone will be like, "Oh, it's April Fool's. I'm gonna try and submit the Spriters Resource graphics or some shit," and it's like, "Oh, I
Uh,
get it. That's funny, but also no." So
yeah, kind of just creating more work for you guys, for your volunteer staff there. That's funny though. Well, that's good. You said not anymore. Did you used to get a lot of more trolls?
back in the day, man, it was a very different space on the internet. You had a lot of people who just had nothing better to do. I've
Yeah.
been followed by a lot of people who have tried to fuck me over with things, and we've had people try and hack the site
Oh
in
no.
the loosest terms, and it's just you got to deal with some assholes throughout life, and the best thing you can do is try to not let them get you down and just keep on going.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So what? I mean, I guess what was the most what period, what year would be the most popular time as far as like you guys were getting the most submissions, you had the most work as far as reviewing them?
You know,
Is that now or?
the thing that's weird is that I would say it's kind of now because it back in the day it was slow. It took a long goddamn time to rip sprite sheets, doing it screenshotting every single frame, and then cutting out the
Yeah.
backgrounds. And now you have enough kind of knowledge flowing about in terms of how to actually export a whole wide array of sheets from a game, or how to do it simply, effectively. So people now submit, hundreds at a time. Every update,
Mm.
we're getting hundreds and hundreds. Whereas back in the day, when I did an update, it was like, 35 sprite sheets, guys. This is amazing. We spent all week doing this. And then it's like now, oh, yeah, it's a bit of a small one. It's only 378. So it's kind of really hard to gauge, I guess. And in terms of approving stuff, I'd say it's probably a little bit lighter now. I'd say like 5 years ago was when it was really heavy.
Okay, I see. So pretty much as the automation's gotten better, you just get submissions
Yeah.
way better. So when was
When
I
when
mean,
some I'd say when
yeah,
some piece of software comes up that makes it easier, we get a large number of things to do with what that software is able to do, you know?
right, yeah.
So if the DS suddenly it's like, oh, well, DS actually it was put together in a way where it was really easy to export sprite sheets, but like say the Xbox suddenly has something happen, suddenly we'll get a wave of Xbox
Yeah,
submissions.
yeah. Gotcha. So would you say that you're like, as far as like community engagement and the amount of people that are uploading and around is now the peak for that as well, or when was
Yeah,
popularity at its height?
it's so hard for me to say because forums were my way of understanding it because I could see the number of regular users. I remembered all their names and what how engaged they were with the website directly through a very direct. I'm reading it off of the screen, so it's the case rather
Yeah.
than like the numbers on the analytics say this because that to me doesn't really represent a community as such. It's just random people looking at it. So at the moment, we do have more people looking at it than ever before, but I would say that we have less user engagement than we had
Mm,
before.
because nobody uses forums anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, if you wanted to go ahead and submit from your favorite game, the likelihood is it's already been done.
Yeah,
So I mean, what are you meant to do? You can't just go, well, I'm going to also rip the same thing because there's no point. It's a waste of time.
makes sense. Right, yeah. As it gets easier and easier, it happens faster and faster.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been doing this for years and years and years now.
Right.
So like any SNES game you can really think of, we've probably got something from it.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. A little bit of context for anybody who doesn't. I don't think Daz gave it a year amount earlier, but it's damn near like 15, 20 that the site's been up. I don't know how long he's been,
Yeah,
and then Daz has been
somewhere
there.
between
Yeah,
those. Yeah.
yeah. So old.
Yeah.
I'm 23 years old. So
Oh man, that's the thing, man. I've just turned 31, so I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, fuck, I'm now in my 30s. I thought I was in my mid 20s, and then suddenly I woke up one day and I've sort of lost the plot.
so you were telling me that as time has gone on, obviously it's a lot easier and more automated to rip assets, whereas maybe back in the days, manually screenshotting and cropping would have been a more common
Mm.
thing. I'm curious. Are there any off the top of your head, like really notable game rips that just had bizarre assets, just like either very confusing or weird or
Oh,
that
dude,
sort of stuff?
A style on the Sega Saturn. It was a Sega game. It was not Sonic the Hedgehog, so no one played it. And for some reason, there's a spray of Mario in it. And I just find that really odd. It's just like a really janky ass Mario that looks like he's kind of just really haggard from being a plumber, you know? Like they tried to go and insult Mario in an unseen graphic, and I just found that really odd.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of weird stuff, dude. You find like oh fuck, what's this new game? Triangle strategy.
Oh yeah, yeah,
The Square Enix triangle
yeah. It's
strategy
like
thing.
Fire Emblem Octopath combo. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I went through the graphics of that the other day, and they've got sprite sheets for the characters where it's like the base they use. So it's the kind of every character before they've been given hair and clothes and any kind of character, they all use the same base, and it's just all of those different poses. So if you were an up and coming sprite artist who didn't know what they were doing, you suddenly have a wide base to base it on and know what the final product should look like, which I think is brilliant.
Right. Yeah, we're talking about like in-game graphics that are built out of components, so it's very difficult to read the
Yeah,
source
yeah.
type of stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah,
essentially the naked sprite,
yeah,
that
the
everyone
naked.
starts as.
So all right. So I mean, and I'm sure that that's probably a thing in most games these days, is that any sort of sprite that's animation based is going to have multiple components or at least like sheets full. Well, anyway,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
curious if I would hypothesize that maybe you could look at two games that have sort of component based sprites, and
Hmm.
you could maybe tell by how unorganized or how much of a mess they are, maybe get some sort of gauge over like the quality of the code or the game. Like, do you ever look at a game and you see the assets are just a fucking mess in the source and you're
Oh,
just like, what?
dude, totally.
Okay.
All the time. Some of the file names alone tell you that they had no idea what they were doing and they were just throwing stuff together. One example of that actually is the Alex Kidd remake that came out a couple months ago, I think. But there's like a 4K sprite of Alex Kidd and everything else is super low resolution. So why is that one image in 4K, which means that that's being resized on all of these different resolutions for no reason? It's really odd stuff. And like unused sprites, and they're just like they've remade the levels, so they've made a tile that specifically goes over one little bit because otherwise it'll look wrong. So they had to put a file in as a fix, and there's like 25 fix files for different sprite bits. It's really odd.
That's funny.
And
Uh,
you'd think a remake of Alex Kidd. I mean, Jesus Christ, to me, as an old man, I guess Alex Kidd is an icon.
That's funny. Yeah, I figured there'd be some stuff like that. I mean, is that part of what sparked your interest in like sprite ripping? Has game development always been something you're interested in? I mean, of course, like with Did You Know Gaming as well, you guys are always talking about like stuff about the actual development and things like
Yeah, I
that.
guess the way that I would put it is that I've always like I love video games, right? But I also don't super love just playing them. I love them to the point where I like to understand more about them, read about them, talk to people about them. I'm not saying this like it's a unique perspective, but just there's a difference between the people that go out and buy a game and play it and the people that go out and buy a game and play it and then talk to people about it and go online and look into shit. And I'm more that kind of person, and I think maybe because I come from a family where I had an older brother who was really into technology and MMORPGs and stuff, and like he wanted to make games, and it kind of just all came together. Like as a younger person, I just found it really interesting,
Yeah.
reverse engineering games, and I think that there's a large number of people out there who are part of that kind of community of people that like to dissect shit to the nth degree and try
Yeah.
and understand what the point is.
That's cool. Yeah. And you've involved yourself with the projects that allow you to do
Yeah,
exactly that.
yeah. I didn't mean to, but it worked.
Yeah, just by doing what you were interested in, it just kind of happened, huh? Yeah.
I think that one of the things that I would say is the reason I've managed to find myself doing the things that connect with what I really love is because I've connected with other people who have given me those opportunities. And it's
Yeah.
always about I don't want to use the word networking because I fucking hate the word, but it isn't networking in the sense of like, oh, I can use you, you can use me, we'll get further, blah 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 blah. But like we have a similar interest and we like this shit. We like talking to each other. Where do we go with this? You know? And just kind of continuing to connect with people, being happy to talk once, 2 years later, talk again, but you remember each other because you remember you did some cool shit. And that to me is that kind of level of networking rather than trying to, nickel and dime people the way that I perceive what people use networking for.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a noble viewpoint for sure. That is that is the desirable viewpoint that you want out of someone that you're gonna work with for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. And that's the thing is
And it's
that
not as
because I
common as
think
you'd
that,
hope.
yeah, exactly. So now when I approach people, I look for people who I think have that mentality. And through the world of YouTube, I've met a lot of fucking YouTubers, and there's only a few that I would call good friends
Yeah.
because I've met a lot who I just think you're not. It's not that they're not genuine, but they just don't line up with the way that I look and think about
Mm,
shit. You know?
yeah.
In the same
No.
sense, I don't know many people that run websites, man. How the fuck do you talk to people that own a website other than to send them an email? And I'm not going to send an email because that's lame.
Yeah, my next thought is to just ask you about all the people that have been guests on Did You Know Gaming, if they're shitty people, but that's probably not the best thing.
Oh, we've had some shitty people be guests, but we didn't know at the time.
Uh-oh.
And as a result, we've then kind of gotten rid of their videos and tried to work out a good middle ground. But I'm not here to be
No,
the.
no, of course, I would never, man.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, at the same time, I'm not the best. I'm not the judge of everyone. I think I'm an all right guy. I don't do mega shitty things, but at the same time, I'm no saint, and I can't be like, well, I don't accept what you think because blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, you know, most people might not accept one of the things that I might think. I don't know what. I'm a generally pretty uh, forgivable guy. I think everything I do is for love, and
Yeah.
I try to be as friendly as I can. But
I want to ask you about the original pixel art section of the website, and that is a newer thing, right? That hasn't been there for the whole time the site's been running, at least.
oh, what the
Right?
custom and edited stuff?
Yes, yes.
No, that's been there for a long time.
It's been there for a long time. So
Yeah,
near the
yeah,
beginning of the site, you're saying?
yeah. I can't really. I think pretty much from the beginning, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay.
But it's one of those difficult ones because we had to come up with a set of standards as to what could be constituted to be added. Because obviously, when you're talking about custom stuff, that's like, well, I've made my OC in the Sonic universe, and I want to add that to the fucking Sonic section. But we had to work out it had to be attached to gaming media in some way, so it didn't have to be a video game. It could be Captain N or from the Sonic comics, but it had to be attributed to something that is a video game.
Oh, okay. That's the first thing that I was thinking about when I first saw that you guys had that. Like, what's stopping me from just like, what if I just submit some horrible pixel art? Like, how do you
And
decide? So it has
that's the
to be
thing.
relevant to a major. It has to be pretty much fan art of like a major game, is what you're saying. It can't just be like some original creation.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, that it has to adhere to a certain quality standard. And I
Yeah.
know that sounds really judgmental of some people, but that some people aren't very good and they're learning, and they could do with some pointers. And I
Yeah.
think it's not right to just wholesale accept everything people draw,
No. Yeah.
because they no one is truly finished. But there comes a time when it's like you should just try a little bit harder, you know?
Yeah. No. No. For sure. So you're saying, do you give feedback to people like when they submit stuff that you feel is not up
Oh,
to par?
absolutely.
Or...
Yeah, yeah. I think that's one of the most important things when it comes to guiding anybody. When you reject something, you got to give them a reason, because if you don't, they're not going to improve.
Interesting. That's very cool. Yeah. No, I agree.
And again, I'm no Picasso. I can't do it any better. But I know when something looks right and when something looks wrong. I've looked at enough sprites to know if
Yeah.
something
No,
is
I
right
get
or
what you
wrong.
mean. I am not an artist, by the way, either. My game uses pixel art, but I work with
Mm,
other artists, and over the years, I've sort of gotten the skill to be able to understand like what I want and what I'm looking for and what is wrong and what is good and what is not good. So I
yeah.
can I get what you mean. Like you can develop an understanding of pixel art even if you're not an artist yourself, for sure.
I mean, to the fact that we've been running it for so long, I know when someone is submitting a sprite sheet that they didn't even rip. And it's the fact that I can recognize that from the structure in which someone put a sheet together and their username and how long they've been doing it, and that can determine whether or not it's been stolen from another person or not. And the fact that
Wow.
we give a shit is another point. I don't like the idea of perpetuating something where someone gets false praise.
Right. No, yeah, that's true. That's really interesting. I'm surprised. I'm kind of surprised that you're able to
I
tell
couldn't
that.
even tell you the exact, like, there's no guidebook to it, but because I've been doing it for so long, I can just clock it, you know?
Yeah. Interesting. Uh so is do you ever butt heads with game developers? Like I know copyright would probably be one of the main concerns running a site
Yeah,
like this.
we've had some DMCA's and stuff. Epic Games told us to take Fortnite down, and I cried about that for a few weeks, and then I just kind of got over it and got on with my life. But in all honesty, nothing major. Just that was probably the
Yeah.
biggest one was Epic Games, as you can. I mean, that is pretty fucking huge to some people,
Yeah.
but uh, developers use the site, so I imagine they have no interest in taking it down. Capcom have used it. I I've been in touch with several companies. They've all used it. I know graphic designers at certain product companies use it for, like,
Hmm.
Namco is making a Pac-Man thing and they need some Pac-Man sprites, so they'll go with the Spriters Resource
Oh.
because it makes a little bit more sense than the assets that they get sent, because the assets they get sent are sort of, they're not right, basically. People don't seem to handle sprites correctly, and somehow as a 12-year-old I fucking worked out exactly how you're supposed to do that. So, not to
Yeah.
rub my own goat there, but it's kind of like, I don't know, it's a bit odd. It's a bit odd.
Yeah. So right, yeah, because like earlier you were saying that you were contracted to rip some sprites sometimes, but also sometimes companies you've already sprited them. They just come use them for free.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
man. I
Okay.
mean, I know that, I think it was like in Smash Bros. One of the spirits is ripped from a sprite sheet, and you can tell because there's a little mistake on the sprite sheet and it appears in the game.
Wow. That's gotta feel good. Oh my god. That's so cool.
The thing is that I don't, again, I can't take any credit for any of it. It's their shit, so they're
Well,
more than
right.
welcome to do it, right? That's why it's there.
Yeah. True, but
But it is nice.
man.
I'm not going to deny, like, it is nice to know that what we've done has served a purpose towards the people that we very much admired at the time.
Right. Yeah. Like I mean, the role that you did provide is a valuable role, which is being the archive, being the
Mm.
resource, for
Again,
sure.
I never expected it, but here we are.
Yeah. So do you ever get like do companies ever contact you and tell you that they're gonna use your stuff, or do you just find out because of like little
We
like
just
errors?
we find out because we go, huh? I wonder if they've made new assets. Let's have a look, and we'll go through it, and then we'll go, hang on a second, this looks very familiar, and it's very clearly just directly taken. Sound
Yeah.
effects is another one, because sometimes the sound files, the wave files have little credit descriptions on them or whatever, and they just don't take them off, and they put it in the game, and someone's credit is written on the file being ripped for the sound resource, and it's
Yeah.
really odd, you know. Even
Yeah.
just recently, the Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter account tweeted out a thing, and they used a custom tile set for a level from a Sonic game that it's like in the Sonic Advance style, but it's a Sonic 2 level or something. I can't quite remember, but they used that, and then everyone in the replies got pissed off because they didn't credit the original artist.
Oh wow. Um,
It was an innocent mistake, and that's I think people get a little bit too angry about stuff like that. They didn't mean to. They were just trying to have fun. It's fine.
Daz is so kind. Oh my god. Um, so the the Undertale situation, and I'll give a little backstory for anybody that's not familiar. But Undertale, when it first released, inside of their assets, they included a file that was named particularly, so it would like appear first. I guess it was named like 000AA, whatever. And it was like a plea, like, hey, guys, please don't post the assets for this game until a couple years after it's out. I don't want people to get spoiled. And they specifically mentioned you, Spriters Resource, in the image, like they just wrote out your name in the PNG or whatever. And you guys did, I think, elect to refrain from posting. But if you could tell me a bit about that situation, like, was it a hard decision, or was there any more complexity to it?
Man.
Yeah,
dude fucking asked us. He asked us. I'm
yeah,
not gonna be an asshole. He asked us to do
yeah,
it, and we're gonna do it. It's his work that he spent a long time on, and I agree with what he wrote, which is that there's a lot of stuff in there that looks like it might be nonsense, but is actually really important to the plot as it develops. So it really spoil things. So like, I don't want to spoil the game. It's his dream project, his fucking life's work up to that point, you know. But at the same time, obviously, it's hard because that's what we do.
yeah.
But then he updated it, I think, like 8 months later to remove the message, and we were just like, well, it's gone. I'm pretty sure he's happy now. It's fine.
That makes sense. I mean, that's super respectable, the approach that you guys took towards that.
We had one incident. I can't name the company because they have asked us to not, but we ripped sprites from an early build of a game that somewhat relevant to Undertale as far as I'll go to describe it, but like we basically ripped it before the game was sort of widely available on market, and they asked that we wait to put sprites out, which is fair enough, I think, because I've been spoiled for games by having to deal with being the administrator of the Spriters Resource. So when a big game comes out and it's immediately spoiled because someone's ripped the graphics from the end of this 200-hour epic RPG, it does kind of fucking suck, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. So I mean, yeah, and then you guys just, I guess, respected that and just didn't post them until the game was widely
Yeah,
available.
exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I know Daz won't say himself because he's being humble, but good God, how fucking lucky is the game dev community and gamers that Daz is the one running this site, and not some fucking asshole who just doesn't care at all about anything.
Dude, in all honesty, I don't. There are plenty of people out there who could be in my position and do what I do. You know, I don't consider myself to be like.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't. I don't. It sounds like I'm like talking down about myself, but I don't want to say that I'm a mega talented dude who fucking knows exactly what he's doing and everything's great. But as long as you approach it with the idea of like this will help people and people will like it, and that's a good thing. I think that's all that really fucking matters.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. But like at the same time, there's a lot of people out there that would just treat it horribly and just be a fucking dog shit admin and just be in it for only the money. Like, as simple as it sounds, like it just takes one corrupt person to be a dick about it. And
I think again that's where if we were going deep on it, maybe my working class background that kind of dictated that I wasn't going to be, from in a well-off position at any point in my fucking life. I figured that love and compassion is the best way of getting forward, in the same way as I said about networking. It's just like, just be a good person and you'll come out on top, and karma does come around, you know?
Yeah. Dang, dude. We're gonna have you on for episode 2 as well for the philosophy discussion. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, dude. I'd love it. I'm well into that shit, dude.
Well, it has much changed. I know you told me that like the method for getting sprites from games has changed a lot over the years. But has much changed as far as how the site is run, the method for submitting, and just like, I mean, the site's been around 15, 20 years, you said. That have there been any pivotal moments? Sorry.
Yeah, for sure. So like, when I took it over, it was it was like HTML. I don't know how much this is going to make any sense to some people, but it was HTML pages. They were all static. We had to go in and edit the source code to fucking put every single icon on that linked to an image and and then that just became old hat, so it then developed into an actual system where you could submit to it rather than being like on a forum. You post it in a thread, someone downloads it, renames it, makes an icon out of it as a PNG, as a solid thing with the text written on the fucking image. There's a lot of work back in the day, and we just kept slimlining it to the point where now, these last sort of 5 years, I've really not had to spend that much time on it, because it just works, and we've
Yeah.
worked out what works.
So what's your like what's I get well, first of all, who built it? Who the current version? Who are you?
Oh, so yeah, at the moment, the current version was built by a guy called Pete, or PT. He was part of a forum from before the before days that I was on, where it was like, 7 people that liked comics, and they
Oh
all
wow.
made a forum
It's
together.
been there longer than you.
Yeah, yeah. And we just, I don't know, we just got it off really well, and then I flew over to his place when I turned 20. I went on a world trip for 6 months after saving up, and stayed at his place in New Jersey, and we just hit it off really well. And I was like, dude, you know what you're fucking doing. I've got this thing. I think we could make some magic, and we did.
That's awesome. So wait, how long has he been managing stuff? How long ago was that?
Oh, that would be 11 years
Oh,
ago
okay. So
now,
pretty
I
long
think.
time, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So he just built something and you don't even that's just perfect for you. It just has like some sort of management tool that you go in and
Yeah,
that
exactly. I
sort of
just
thing.
like go through a list of all the submissions, and I can just see them all and
Right.
just hit approve or reject with what reasons, and it's just really simple
I
stuff.
see. So but back in the day, you were the one copy and pasting HTML and stuff back in the day or no?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, that's again,
Oh,
the
okay.
website only really existed because as a kid, I wanted to know how HTML worked, because
Yeah.
that was all that existed back in the day. So
Right, right.
I knew how that worked. I knew how to rip sprites. Seems like a logical conclusion to make a website that has sprites.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, do you anticipate any major changes in the future? I mean, like, what's the future of the site? Are there things that you'd like to see change? Are there things that are planned to be changed? And like, or is it more just
Uh,
maintaining what you already have?
it's little things. We want to have a dark theme. It's a bit bright at the moment. It's always been very bright because I always considered, a color theme presents a mood, and bright means happy, right? But now that we're getting older, it turns out actually no, dark themes are the way to go. Um, and Essentially just like combining the 4 different parts of the VG resource, because we also have 3D models and sound effects and textures, but trying to work out a way of actually combining them together so that things link in a way where you can kind of navigate through it in a more uh, I don't know, more natural way of progressing through things across the sites. So it kind of all works together as one bigger product. Because at the moment, you want to look at sprites for one thing, you've got to
Yeah,
go and then search for them separately if you want the models and sound effects. And I just think it's a bit of a hassle.
that makes sense. That makes sense for sure. A little bit of backstory for anybody that doesn't know what he's talking about here. Spriters Resource is a part of like a larger group of sites called VG Resource. They also do 3D models and other things. Or you were talking about audio even earlier. I didn't even know that. But
Mm.
Spriters Resource was, I guess, by far the most popular, the one with the most brand recognition. But what Daz is saying
It
is
was
that he
the
wants to.
first.
It was the first
It
as
was,
well. Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess the main goal moving forward is to sort of get these moved together into one larger thing more so than they are now.
Yeah, because I don't know, like at the moment they are technically separate websites, and that was just a decision I made a long time ago when I didn't know what I was doing with SEO and how people use the internet, and it turns out it was wrong. And we have to put a lot of effort into combining them
Yeah.
all back together.
It's changed a lot over time too. What works best for Google and
Yeah,
such.
exactly.
But I mean,
Not
you
that it's
guys,
really bad, I don't really care. Ultimately, I'm just ripping the shit, and if people
yeah.
find it, that's great.
Well, that said, the fact that you have spriters-resource.com as your domain is definitely doing you some favors.
Yeah, yeah. And again, that didn't exist when the site existed before me. I bought that domain because it didn't exist. It was it was
Oh.
like a subdomain on another website.
Oh, so you were originally called the Spriters Resource, but you had a different domain name. That was like some sort of subdomain, I see.
Yeah, it's a long story, but basically it was the subdomain on a guy called Psy Guy's website, and he used to make a comic called "That's My Sonic" or some shit like that. And it turns out he was a really shit guy. Uh,
Okay.
like I'm talking real fucking
But if
scumbag,
Daz says
and
this guy sucks, he fucking sucks. I'm telling you.
yeah, I mean, I'm talking this guy is not the guy you ever want to be around you or anyone you know. And I'm so glad that I became his worst enemy for a good 7 or 8 years.
Oh, he's got a nemesis.
Well, he's fucked off now because people worked out he's a massive fucking scumbag. So
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
yeah, the early internet, man, it was a weird wild west.
I bet. I bet. I was a young one. I was on the internet pretty young, but I didn't know what I was
Mm.
doing. I was just playing RuneScape.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, man. Just stay on RuneScape. Do not exit RuneScape. There is nothing else out there.
um have you been in contact with anybody who's made I'm sure there's been a ton of them, but like fan games that have been made using assets from your site, whether it be like custom ones or ones from actual
Not
games.
really. I don't really. The thing is that kind of, I don't really keep in touch with people very well.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people don't really kind of contact me directly with the Spriters Resource. I don't know why. I just kind of, it's the Spriters Resource is the main thing, right? It's at the forefront. I'm just a dude who sits in the background. And no one fucking knows who I am, and I like that. I think that's great because the attention should be the website. Um, but at the same time, like there's a lot of people out there who have made fan games, and I do know them. They're nice people, and you know, um, there's a few. Probably the claim to fame is that we used to be kind of worked alongside and did a lot of like learning growing up with Tyson Hess, who's now the fucking dude who does Sonic the Hedgehog everything, it seems, which I think is great. He was always like big Sonic the Hedgehog fan back in the day, and now he's the guy who redesigned Sonic the Hedgehog for the movies and did loads of work on the
Oh.
comics and stuff.
Okay, I didn't know that actually. I didn't know that actually. So you've done some what kind of stuff have you done with him?
Well, basically, just fucking grew up with him, let's
Oh
say, on
yeah.
the internet.
Okay. You're just
We
homies.
were
I see. Yeah.
we were part of the same community for like
Right.
10 years or whatever, and we both learned from sort of the same place. He was a very talented artist from a very young age, and everyone fucking knew it, and everyone knew he would do well.
Awesome. That's really cool. That's all my prepared questions that I have about Spriters Resource, but just one more kind of oddball. I know that on Did You Know Gaming, you guys did a video about Newgrounds, and you've also had a lot of like popular people like Ego Raptor,
Hmm.
etc. Like I think someone as well for Johnny Utah for the Newgrounds video. You've had some people from Newgrounds voice over your stuff, and you've also
Yeah,
covered
yeah.
Newgrounds history a bit. I have a bit of background with Newgrounds as well. I post all my games there. All my games are wildly more popular there than anywhere else. I think RetroMMO is up to like 70K views there. Something 90% of my users originated
Well,
from
it's
this
'cause,
site. So
honestly, because Newgrounds knows where it's fucking at.
yeah.
Newgrounds users know what's good.
Well, I just wanted to hear a little bit like what's your history with that site in any
Oh, dude,
any
fucking,
regard.
it's how I grew up. I was murdering the Teletubbies when it first kind of hit the internet. That was the first thing I remember they did was just you could shoot the Teletubbies and play Pico School. It was the bomb. Uh, I've been on Newgrounds since I can fucking remember, man. It's there was an old group of people. They did a series called Tomorrow's Nobodies. That's where I sort of gained a lot of my sense of humor as a kid. Me and my friends would share shit on there all the time. I fucking love Newgrounds, dude. It's part of everything I grew up with. Not just the content on it, but the mentality of everything and the kind of, I don't want to use the word rebel nature because that sounds really fucking lame, but like it's that kind of punk rock sensibility of how to approach the internet, you know?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely an edgy bunch of people, you can say for
Yeah.
sure.
Edgy but not cringe. That's the
Edgy
important
but
thing.
not cringe, edgy but based. Um, well, I mean, I guess that's all. I did want to ask you. You did write that episode though about the Newgrounds history one for Did You Know
It
Gaming
was
or no?
it was like a good collaborative effort between like 3 or 4 of
Oh,
us.
okay.
It
Oh,
was
so you guys are all
mostly.
into it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Oh, okay.
100%, dude. Yeah, me and Greg. Greg, who also works on Did You Know Gaming, he's a very good friend of mine who I've been friends with since literally he was born. Um, I was apparently there to see him be born, which is a bit weird, but we've been friends for our entire lives. So you know, we both grew up with Newgrounds together.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. That's all I got for you today. I gotta thank you for coming on with me today. Maybe I'll get you back on sometime for like a Did You Know Gaming
Oh,
interview or
dude,
something. I
for
don't know.
sure. I mean, honestly, it's my pleasure. I love to fucking babble. You may have noticed, so I really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you to the audience. Thank you to our sponsor, Covalence. Thank you to Dazz again. Final question I'll just ask you: Is there anything else you want to plug? Of course, go check out Spriters Resource, spriters-resource.com. Which I forgot to admit, I must say, my hyphen brethren, the fact that my domain has a hyphen in it as well,
Dude, hyphen is
retro-mmo.com.
the way. You gotta have a hyphen, otherwise, where's the space gone? You know, it's not a real word anymore. But in terms of other places to check me out,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I don't fucking know. Go with Did You Know Gaming on YouTube, the VG Resource on Twitter, or just don't do either of those and tell someone in your family how much you really care about them, because that's actually more important.
Oh my god, this guy's literally perfect. What the heck? All right, thank you so much, everybody. That's a wrap.